Hello viewers, welcome to our program on Immigration and You. I am your immigration attorney Michael Fulwani, and once again we have with us my law partner David Nachman. David, welcome.
Thanks so much, Michael. Always a pleasure to be here with you.
Very good. So this is another question that keeps coming from some of our viewers who watched our programs on DACA and DAPA. You know, DACA is for the young students who came under the age of 16 and here, for 5 years between January 2010 to 15. And DAPA is the parents of green card holders or citizen children who are illegally in the US. And we talked a lot about that. The question here is about both from DACA and DAPA. Some client says there was some crime that was committed, or maybe shoplifting or something. Would that disqualify me from getting into either a DACA benefit or a DAPA benefit? Other question is, somebody said, I have a deportation order against me, but I did not leave the country. Or I am under the deportation proceedings. मेरा केस चल रहा है deportation का, या पहले deportation हो चुका है. Is that a problem in getting the benefits under DACA or DAPA?
Well, we spoke about this earlier, Michael, and unfortunately, the thing is that we don't have Q&As on the DAPA program. We do have some guidance on the DACA program. We also have a little experience with the DACA program. So with regard to crimes, of course, the guidance that we can give you, which is the penultimate guidance, is that if you have any criminal issues whatsoever, it's a great idea to talk to a qualified immigration professional who will be able to look at those crimes and see whether they fall within the parameters that would exclude you from being able to take advantage of the benefits. Now, with regard to DACA, DACA, of course, rewrote the criminal issues altogether, and they have there's actually a very nice chart online that describes the types of crimes that would not be that if you're convicted of those crimes, you would not be able to take advantage of DACA. One of the things is DUIs. DUIs are very, very difficult to deal with within DACA.
DUI means driving
under
intoxication.
Right, driving under the influence.
Drive करते हैं, पकड़ लिया आपको ticket मिला, that is DWI.
Exactly, driving under the influence. And interestingly, I do know of some cases where there were DUIs and they still approved DACA. However, in the DACA Q&A, it's pretty clear that if you have a DUI, that was not going to allow you to be able to get DACA. So,
कहने का मतलब ये है कि कुछ लोग ये क्वेश्चन पूछते हैं कि मेरा क्राइम हुआ था, शॉपलिफ्टिंग थी या कुछ ऐसा था, तो उसकी गाइडेंस ये है कि अगर सीरियस क्राइम है तो इफेक्ट हो सकता है, छोटा मोटा हो, एक दो बार हो तो शायद नहीं हो. लेकिन इसकी जो है इंफॉर्मेशन डाका के अंदर क्लियर उन्होंने बताया है. डापा जो पेरेंट्स वाला है वो अभी तक बिल्कुल क्लियर नहीं. फिर भी इवन देन आई एम सेइंग we are still waiting for a detailed information, guidance, regulations. This is the general information.
As to DAPA. With DACA, we have right, and it's probably going to be the case that the information for DACA will be used to mirror image DACA, since it is a deferred action program, but we just don't know because it's a new program.
Similarly, जो लोग जिनके पहले का deportation order है या deportation का केस चल रहा है, तो सवाल यह है कि क्या वो लोग भी डाका और डापा में अप्लाई कर सकते हैं? अभी ऐसा लगता है कि yes, I think it has worked out the previous deportation.
Exactly.
But again, once again, we are very cautious. We are waiting for a detailed guideline specifically mentioning this, and we will come next program and tell them.
Exactly. Well, in the DACA regulations, or the DACA guidance that's out there, there are no regulations. Again, this is an administrative relief for deferred action. But in the DACA provisions that are online, it talks directly to individuals who have prior deportations. Our office has been effective in getting relief for individuals who are subject to deportation orders and removal orders. So I feel comfortable in stating at least that for DACA, they will be able to get that relief. For DAPA, again, we're still waiting to see what's going to happen. So
let's move on to another subject. We were talking before in the car that about the marriages, divorce, adoptions. Just let me briefly say that these are the items that the immigration service says, if that is legal in your country where that took place, we will accept that. With an exception. But the exception is as long as it is not opposed to the public policy or violates some other law. For example, one Muslim gentleman asked me that I have 2 wives. One I brought here, one is still back home. So can I bring her? I say, no, because that's not permitted. He said, but I think you said in one of the programs that what is valid there in Pakistan or in India, I can even have 4 wives. Because that is the law permits me. So why would they not recognize? I say, because now that comes in that
violates the public
violence
policy.
of the public policy or another law. So
exactly.
That's brief information.
Right. Well, also we also had an article that we recently put on our website in our blog about underage, a marriage to a woman who's underage, for example.
Yeah.
You know, so that would also violate public policy.
They may be permitted in some of the places.
Exactly.
But not US, because they have a particular specific requirement.
Correct. Correct.
Okay, so let's talk generally about validity or legality or bona-fides of marriages, divorces. And we have seen so many cases where the immigration service or the American consuls have challenged, this is not a valid marriage. Exactly. Or this is not a valid divorce. Let's talk about that for a few minutes.
Okay. Well, the bona fides of a marital relationship, of course, that's what lies at the heart. That's what you have to prove in order to be able to get the benefit. And in general, when you have a U.S. citizen who marries a foreign national, you have to demonstrate the bona fides, which means in Latin, the good faith of the marriage. And of course, I also wanted to point out, just because it recently occurred, where at least we had the inquiry, where you have an individual who might be in proceedings and they marry a U.S. citizen, that it's a much higher legal standard. It's not just bona fides that you have to prove, but it's bona fides plus.
Legal.
So, yeah, and the way that would work is that you would have to file an I-130, and then you would have an interview on the bona fides of the marriage relationship, the marital relationship, and then a determination would have to be made by the government as to whether or not it's truly done for the purposes of love and not for the purposes of allowing the individual to get out of the removal proceeding.
See, let me explain in Hindi.
Please.
Bona fide और legally अलग अलग चीज़ें हैं. Legal का मतलब ये कानूनन सही है कि नहीं. आप समझ गए ना? जैसे कि आपने प्रॉपर मैरिज किया, एक ही मैरिज है, पहले का कोई वो प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, और लीगली मैरिज किया, विधि किया, प्रॉपर रिलीजियस रजिस्ट्रेशन किया, तो वो लीगल है, मींस इट इज डन इन अकॉर्डेंस विद द लॉ. सो लीगलिटी इज ओके. इन सम केसेस इवन दैट इज चैलेंज. किसी ने बिगर विधि करने के शादी कर लिया तो भी वो लीगली नहीं है. बट लेट अस से आई एम सेपरेटिंग द टू इश्यूज आर कंप्लीट सेपरेट. लीगल एंड बोना फिडी, दैट इज लीगल. इट हैज टू बी डन लीगल. बोना फिडी का मतलब ये रियल है कि नहीं है, क्योंकि कई लोग हैं कि रियल मैरिज नहीं है, पेपर मैरिज है. तो वो सवाल जब आता है तो वो ये देखते हैं कि ये मैरिज सिर्फ उसने ग्रीन कार्ड के लिए की, और ही हाइडेड प्रॉब्ली about a previous divorce or something. So they have a question. This is like the paper marriage, and that's a fraud. Same thing happens with the divorces also. लोग हैं, बीवी बैठी है इंडिया में, wife is in India, children in India, they don't mention anything, right? And they marry an American citizen here, apply for a green card. Now, obviously, there are both issues here. Both legal, because it's not legal, it's illegal to have two wives, according to US law, right? And it's not bona fide, because he just got a divorce was fraud, and the marriage is fraud. So now I think by this, they understand the difference between a legal and a bona fide.
So one of the things that we do, of course, as lawyers is that we help our clients to understand what types of documents, because obviously you're presenting a case to the Immigration Service, so what types of documents can you show to the government in order to demonstrate the bona fides? So one of the things, of course, is that you have shared certain financial information. Another thing is proof that you're living together. And the government, of course, can do an investigation, and they often do send out fraud FDNS, fraud detection national security officers, to do an investigation as to whether or not the marriage is or is not a bona fide marriage. But ultimately, when you go for the marriage interview, that's really what you're trying to prove. That's the focus of the interview.
This also happens a lot of times. in 751, that is the removal of the 2-year condition, when a citizen gets married and the person, wife or husband from India or Pakistan or any place, comes back within 2 years. Because if he's entering the US after 2 years, then it's a permanent green card, no condition. If he entering the US within 2 years from the date of the marriage, वो 2 साल का मिलता है उनको conditional card, right? In that connection, then people have to apply for either a joint petition or apply for a waiver. अगर पहले शादी में divorce हो चुका है, problem है, they apply for a waiver. So that the purpose of that is when the person goes for interview, they are focusing on the bona-fides of the marriage.
Exactly.
To see whether this marriage, like if a person, आपने शादी किया, citizen है, you get married, your wife comes in, and after 1 month there's a divorce. Obviously, it's very clear that this marriage was most likely. So they look at different things in the 751 also. How long they have been married, how long they live together, they want to bank. I mean, I do a lot more than what immigration says. I put in the marriage certificate, the affidavits from the people, the photos of the marriage, health insurance.
Well, joint financial documents for an extended period of time up to possibly the time of the divorce.
Correct.
And I think that one of the things which a lot of the people who come to see us don't understand is that if you're applying for a waiver and you're not applying for the joint filing, is that they always ask what's the timing? When do I file? And really what it is it comes down to after you have the divorce.
Yes.
So you can file, there's no time limit. As long as you're divorced, there's no time limit. You can file any time after you're divorced. And I think that that's really important so that everybody understands that when you're doing a joint filing, the latest date that you can file is, of course, up to the time of the 2 years, the conditional residence.
That's correct.
But if you're getting a divorce and you're not filing jointly for the 751, there's no time limitation. And that's really important for everyone to know.
But you see, even divorce, also, they look at the time period. For example, as I was saying earlier.
Exactly, because it's going to be evidence of the bona-fides.
You came here and after 1 or 2 months, then there was a divorce. I'm not saying there are situations where I had a case where there were 11 days only. And as soon as the person came in, he started beating her, fighting with her, beating her, abusing her. She could not stand. Even for 2 weeks, she had to run away from the home to uncle's home. And we were able to show the police reports and all the documents. We are talking about a Wawa kind of situation.
Well, that's different because then you're getting a waiver based upon, a battered spouse or someone who is extremely, extreme hardship.
I'm talking about long time ago when there was no Wawa. That was in one of the grounds. So, but they put other proceedings. Immigration judge wanted to terminate her green card because fraud. But then listen, that the girl came in with all the gold jewelry in New Jersey, the court, the immigration judge. She wanted to open it. She said, "My God, you have brought this jewelry." Yes, I want to show you that this was a real marriage. I wanted to marry all my life. But this is what happened to me. This is what happened to me, and I had a fear of my life. I have no option but to run away and go to uncle and get a shelter. So the judge, we put in this, including the video of the marriage. The judge said, "Mr. Fulwani, can I take this video? I want to see." So he went home, watched the movie like with his wife. And they saw that thousands of people, the Patel gets married, it's not 20 people, it's 1,000 people. Judge next day, he told the prosecutor, the government attorney, I mean, come on, it's very clear to me that's a real marriage and this poor girl had to suffer it. So he kept quiet, he said, "Sir, it's up to you, judge, up to you." Done. So that goes back to what we were saying earlier, right?
Right. And what I've seen is kind of the flip side, Michael, where unfortunately because oftentimes when spouses get into a divorce situation, one spouse will kind of poke at the other by making the time limit go further. So it might be an uncontested divorce, but one might contest to push it out really long.
Exactly.
And that's where they make the other person very nervous because they think there's a time limit, but there's not. So that's why I was making that point. But I think we're running out of time for this week, and we look forward to coming back and maybe giving some additional information, especially about your trip to India, and maybe some information that may have happened at the consulate. I'm sure that that's going to be cutting-edge information for our viewers.
Thank you very much for coming on the program today. And we
My pleasure,
continue to
Michael,
do so in the future as long as we are here. And thank all of you for watching the program. Please keep watching us every Saturday and Sunday on ITV Vision of Asia at 11:45 a.m. Thank you and goodbye.